Imagine a man powerful enough to bring not just one, but two mighty empires to their knees. A man who turned prosperous cities into smoldering ruins and whose name alone struck terror across an entire continent. A man so feared, so relentless, that history remembers him as the Scourge of God. His name was Attila. A name that echoes through the corridors of time, shrouded in both awe and dread. But who was this enigmatic figure who seemed to emerge from the mists of the East, bringing destruction and fear wherever he went? In this video we'll travel back to a time of chaos and collapse, of crumbling empires and rising warlords. We'll uncover the life of a man whose legend was forged in fire and steel, among epic battles, forbidden loves, buried secrets, and the enduring myths that still haunt our imagination today. Make yourself comfortable. You're about to embark on a journey through one of the most compelling, dramatic, and terrifying chapters in human history. When we reflect on history's most iconic figures, we often think of emperors crowned with laurels, philosophers surrounded by scrolls, or generals draped in ceremonial armor. Yet there are other names, rare and powerful, that need no titles. Names that instantly evoke fear, wonder, and mystery. Attila is one of them. Just hearing it conjures the image of galloping horsemen, burning cities, panicked emperors, and a world on the brink of collapse. But who was Attila truly? Not the caricature of a mindless barbarian, but the man behind the myth? Born around 406 AD, Attila entered a world in turmoil. The Western Roman Empire, once the heart of the civilized world, had grown old and frail, its power eroded by infighting, corruption, and relentless external attacks. Its eastern counterpart, the Eastern Roman Empire, richer and more fortified, struggled to withstand wave after wave of invasions from tribes pressing on its borders. It was during this period of decline and vulnerability that the Huns, nomadic horsemen from the vast Eurasian steppes, thundered onto the stage of history. Known for their speed, savagery, and military prowess, they were feared across the continent. No walls seemed high enough, no army strong enough to resist them. And among these hardened warriors rose Attila, a young man of ambition and cunning, destined to reshape the destiny of nations. Following the death of his uncle Rua, Attila and his brother Bleda jointly ruled the Huns. But shared power rarely lasts. Attila was not a man to compromise. In 445 AD, Bleda vanished from the stage of history. According to several sources, he was assassinated by Attila in a calculated act of fratricide, just one of many palace intrigues of the era. From that moment onward, Attila stood alone at the helm of the most terrifying military force Europe had ever known. And his reign would be nothing short of apocalyptic. The early years of his sole rule were marked by ruthless campaigns against the Eastern Roman Empire. Between 441 and 447, Attila unleashed destruction across the Balkans. Cities like Margus, Viminatium, Singidunum, and Sirmium were reduced to ash. His tactics were swift, brutal, and effective. His army, composed of a mix of fierce nomadic tribes, moved like a phantom, appearing out of nowhere, striking with overwhelming force, then vanishing before resistance could gather. These were not random raids. Attila understood the art of war and the game of power. He targeted key trading centers, crossroads, and fortresses. His aim was not simply looting, but total psychological and strategic domination. He wanted to crush the will of his enemies, bleed their economies, and force their rulers into submission. Emperor Theodosius II, unable to repel the threat, chose instead to buy peace, at an ever-increasing cost. First 700 pounds of gold per year, then double, then triple. Each treaty was more humiliating than the last. Yet none brought lasting peace. In 447, Attila returned to Thrace. The battle at the Eutus River ended in disaster for the Romans. Entire legions were annihilated. Provinces were left defenseless. Refugees poured southward as Attila's army devastated the countryside. According to reports, the land was laid waste all the way to the gates of Constantinople. Crops were burned, villages emptied, the very soul of the empire shattered. But Attila was no mere barbarian marauder. He governed. He levied taxes. He engaged in diplomacy. He demanded that Roman ambassadors bow before him. He made nobles offer up their sons as hostages. And while he could be brutal, he was never arbitrary. His every move was calculated for maximum effect. He knew when to strike, and when to wait. Remarkably, he also managed to hold together a volatile coalition of Gothic, Gepid, Alan, and other warrior tribes, each with their own languages, gods, and ambitions. It was Attila's magnetic leadership that unified them under a single banner, driven by the shared promise of Roman plunder and conquest. His greatest weapon was not the sword, but fear itself. Word of his approach alone could cause entire towns to flee. Some cities opened their gates without a fight. Resistance often meant annihilation. Then in 450, a curious letter arrived. Honoria, the rebellious sister of Western Roman Emperor Valentinian III, sent Attila a ring and a plea for help to escape a forced marriage. Attila interpreted this as a marriage proposal, and seized the moment. He demanded half of the Western Roman Empire as dowry. When this demand was rejected, Attila had his justification for war. In 451 he stormed into Gaul. His path was a swath of destruction. Metz, Reims, Tournai, Amiens, Orleans, none were spared. But in the Catalaunian Plains, near what is now Champagne, an unlikely alliance of Romans, Visigoths, and Franks rose to stop him. The ensuing battle was one of the bloodiest of the ancient world. Though inconclusive, it halted Attila's advance and marked his first real setback. But he was not done. In 452 he invaded Italy. The devastation was total. Aquileia, one of the most important cities of the north, was obliterated so completely that no trace remained. Padua, Vicenza, Verona, Brescia, and Milan fell like dominoes. Panic gripped the Italian peninsula. With no armies left to resist, Rome prepared for its end. And then, one of history's most surreal moments occurred. Pope Leo I, alone and unarmed, rode out to meet Attila. No soldiers. No legions. Just faith and diplomacy. We don't know what was said that day. Some claim divine intervention. Others suggest famine, disease, or enemy reinforcements. Whatever the cause, Attila turned back. It was an act that entered legend. The following year, 453, Attila was preparing yet another campaign against the Eastern Empire. But he would never see it through. On the night of his wedding to a young woman named Ildiko, he died suddenly. The official account says a nosebleed killed him. He suffocated in his sleep. But suspicion lingered. Was he murdered by Ildiko? Poisoned by his own men? The victim of a Roman plot? We may never know. With his death, the Hun Empire collapsed. His sons quarreled and fought. His allies broke away. The conquered peoples rebelled. The once mighty horde disintegrated, swallowed by history. But Attila's story was far from over. According to legend, his body was buried in 3 coffins, one of gold, one of silver, and one of iron, and hidden in a secret location. The slaves who performed the burial were executed to keep the site secret. To this day, the tomb of Attila remains one of the great unsolved mysteries. Some believe it lies at the bottom of a river. Others think it's buried beneath a modern city. Treasure hunters still search, across Hungary, Romania, and along the Danube. And yet, the legend only grew. In Hungary, it is said the Magyars, ancestors of the Hungarians, descended from Attila's bloodline. In Romania, noble families still whisper of ties to the Scourge of God. Across Europe, his name became myth, then symbol, then icon. Through medieval epics, Renaissance texts, 20th century films, and modern video games, Attila has endured. Feared, admired, misunderstood, he is remembered not just as a destroyer but as a leader, a tactician, and a force of nature. Was he a monster? Or a visionary born in a crumbling world? Was he a ruthless invader, or the inevitable product of a dying empire's weakness? As with all great figures in history, the truth is layered and complex. But one thing is certain, Attila has never been forgotten. If this story moved you, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Was Attila a brutal barbarian, or a brilliant strategist? And if his tomb were ever discovered, what do you think we'd find inside? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episodes, where we explore more great figures and great mysteries from the past. Until next time, get ready for another journey through time.